You bought a new shirt before the game. Brand new, clean. Your team lost 4-1. You haven't worn it since. That was 3 years ago. During a bad run, 3 losses, maybe 4, something changes. Not in the team, in you. You swap the seat, switch the drink, start putting your shoes on in a different order. You don't announce it. You just do it quietly and wait to see what happens. Somewhere underneath that, you weren't fully sure the shirt wasn't part of the problem. You know how that sounds. You're an adult. You understand that a piece of fabric sitting in your living room has no physical connection to 11 men running around a pitch 200 miles away. You kept the old shirt in the drawer anyway. The first ritual usually starts with a win, not a regular win. A win that mattered. A cup run, a derby, a game where something was at stake and your team came through. And you happened to be wearing something, sitting somewhere, eating something, watching with someone specific. The result arrived and your brain registered. Those conditions, that combination, file it. Most fans can trace a superstition back to a single moment like this. The first time they wore the shirt and the team won. The first time they sat in a particular corner of the pub and didn't lose. The logic doesn't come first. The experience comes first. And the logic gets built around it after. And once you've built it, the first test comes fast. Next match, different circumstances. You follow the rule or you don't. If you follow it and they win, the connection gets stronger. If you break it and they lose, the connection gets cemented. The ritual just became non-negotiable. In 1948, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner put pigeons in a box. Food appeared at random intervals, roughly every 15 seconds, with no connection whatsoever to what the pigeon was doing. Whatever the pigeon happened to be doing when the food dropped in, turning left, bobbing its head, spinning in place, it tended to repeat that behavior. The food came again. The behavior got stronger. The pigeon had no way of knowing the food was coming, regardless of what it did. Skinner called it superstition in the pigeon. The bird had accidentally paired a random behavior with a reward, and the brain locked it in as if it were cause and effect. You wore that shirt the day your team won 3-0 in the cup. You didn't plan it, it just happened. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a connection got made. Not a loud, deliberate one, a quiet one. The kind the brain makes automatically when two things happen close together and the outcome is something you care about. You are not a pigeon, but this is the same wiring. Psychologists call this the illusion of control, the belief that your behavior influences an outcome you objectively cannot affect. The name sounds clinical, embarrassing, almost. But the research doesn't frame it as a malfunction. It frames it as what the brain does when the stakes are high and you have no real way to act on them. When people lack control over something they care about, they get anxious. Superstitious rituals, even ones you don't fully believe in, tend to reduce that anxiety. Not because the ritual works, because the ritual gives your brain something to do with attention instead of just sitting in it. Research on football fan superstitions found that the most common behaviors involve wearing specific clothing, shirts, socks, sometimes underwear, sitting in a particular seat, superstition, repeating certain phrases during a match, and refusing to change food or drink during a winning streak. You've done at least one of those, probably more than one. A survey of sports fans found that 4 in 10 admitted to being superstitious, wearing lucky socks or sitting in a fixed spot at home or in the ground for important games. 22% said they refused to watch certain games with people they considered unlucky. That last one. You have mentally classified other human beings as bad luck, not annoying to watch with, not people you don't like, bad luck. For a team that doesn't know they exist, and you probably say, if asked, that you don't actually believe it, that you know it doesn't work. Researchers who interviewed football fans found the same thing. Fans consistently said their rituals were irrational and consistently followed them anyway. The belief isn't sitting at the surface, it's lower than that. More like a gut feeling you don't want to test, like a coin you keep in your pocket because it feels lucky, even though you'd never bet your rent on it. Psychologists separate this into 2 types of control. Primary control is the belief that your action directly causes the outcome. Throw the dice with my left hand and I'll get a 6. Secondary control is different. You're not claiming to cause anything. You're just trying to stay aligned with whatever force is running things. Not curse it, not interrupt it. Keep the conditions right. Most fan superstitions live in that second category. You're not saying the shirt controls the game. You're saying you don't want to be the reason it doesn't happen. Scientists at Colgate University ran a study where participants who believed they had a lucky item with them performed better on pudding, on memory tests, on motor tasks. Their explanation was that the lucky item raised the person's belief in their own ability to succeed. Not magic, confidence. The ritual worked, but it worked on the person holding it, not on the outcome itself. For players, this matters in a real way. A pre-game routine that lowers anxiety and raises focus before stepping onto the pitch has actual performance value. The ritual isn't irrational, it's a psychological anchor. An athlete who taps the post twice before every corner isn't confused, they're regulating. For fans, the function is different. Your confidence doesn't change the score, but the mechanism is the same. The ritual creates a feeling of participation, of not being completely passive while the thing you care about plays out in front of you. You're in it. You have a role. The shirt is the only move you've got. Then your team loses. You followed every rule. You wore the shirt, sat in the spot, didn't let the unlucky friend near the TV. And they still went down 2-0 at home. What happens to the ritual? Researchers found fans split into 2 responses. Some kept the ritual and found another explanation for the loss. The referee, the manager, a player who had a bad night. Others adjusted the ritual. The shirt was right, but something else was off. Next time, they add a rule. You don't abandon the system, you debug it. That's how superstitions grow, not from one lucky win, but from the process of adjusting each time the result doesn't match. Over time, the ritual gets more specific. The shirt? But this shirt, washed on Tuesday, put on before the left shoe, while the pre-match warm-up plays in the background. Layer by layer, until the routine has a logic that only makes sense to you. Researchers also found that fans linked 2 completely random events into causal chains, drinking a specific brand during a win and then continuing to buy that brand because they believed it helped the team. The brain builds these connections fast. Breaking them takes much longer, especially when the results are intermittent. A win here, a loss there. Variable enough that the ritual never fully proves itself right, never fully proves itself wrong. That intermittency is exactly what keeps it locked in. What's less obvious is what happens when you decide to break the ritual on purpose. Say you're at a friend's house, the shirt is at home. You know this is ridiculous. You make a conscious decision not to care, and then your team loses. And your brain, the same brain that just decided this was all nonsense, files that data immediately. You broke it. They lost. The ritual was protecting something. It doesn't matter that they might have lost anyway. It doesn't matter that you watched 100 other games without the shirt, and some of those they won. The loss landed right after the breach. And that sequence is what sticks. The brain is not running a controlled experiment. It's looking for patterns under pressure. And under pressure, one confirming example lands harder than 20 that don't. The cost of breaking the ritual isn't just the guilt. It's that breaking it and surviving barely moves the needle, but breaking it and watching them lose can lock the behavior in for years. The superstition becomes self-reinforcing, not because it works, but because the moments when it seems to fail are psychologically louder than the moments when it's quietly irrelevant. The superstition isn't just about the result, it's about being in the game. Live football puts you in a position where you are emotionally in the middle of something you have no power to affect. That's an uncomfortable place to be. The ritual gives you an action, something that feels like contribution, even if that contribution is sitting in the same spot on the same couch with the same drink, wearing the same shirt, with the collar slightly up. You're not passive, you're doing your part. Other fans understand this without explanation. You don't have to justify the shirt to someone who has their own shirt. There's a shared grammar to the whole thing, an unspoken agreement about how seriously to take your own nonsense. Everyone knows it's not real. Nobody puts it in the wash during a winning streak. The ritual also becomes a kind of archive. You wore that shirt in 2019, the run of 7 wins, the promotion. Your friend drove 3 hours to watch the last game with you. The shirt isn't just a shirt, it holds the context of every time you wore it, every result that came back attached to it. Getting rid of it isn't just breaking a superstition, it's throwing away a record of those moments. The discomfort you feel when someone suggests washing it isn't fully about luck. Part of it is that the shirt is a physical object connected to something you don't want to let go of. The superstition is the cover story. The attachment is the real thing. The shirt doesn't work. You know that. But if your team won the next 5 games while you were wearing it, would you really put it in the wash? Drop your match day ritual in the comments. The weirder, the better.